you really have to dissect all these wrecks. Like when I got wrecked by Chastain, I'm just like, I don't even know, like, well, was it him or was it like someone else? Now,
Yeah. You've seen the replay now, though.
it was him.
Yeah.
Shocker. But yeah, he just gassed it up early like he did at Gateway. And, you know, didn't you say something about awareness?
Yeah.
On the plane?
I said it's just astounding that when Ross is running behind you, that at this point, you know, after the third, fourth incident, they see the 11 bumpers like, okay, I'm going to just tiptoe around this one. And that's not the case whatsoever. Like, it's just, it blows my mind. This still just drives in.
Yeah.
Is racing as hard as you can.
I think it's, simply because it's just there hasn't been, when your kids misbehave, I'm not calling them a kid, by the way. When your kids misbehave, you just got to keep upping the punishment until it really kind of gets their attention. So
But you don't think that, like, there's the 11 car. Oh, yeah. I remember that breakfast we had. That was good.
I mean, everyone has that person that they get behind. They're like, you just know that as a driver. And it's amazing, like you're saying, that there's no self-awareness. It's like,
yeah, like the switch.
Spaceland.
Like, yes.
I don't know what's going on. Elephant in the room, I guess.
What people want to know.
Yeah, I guess you guys have hung on long enough. So at the end of the race, me and Ross got into it. Basically, here's the thing, right? Is that I got to the end of the race. I saw he was on the outside of me. I went into turn one with the mindset that I'm going to try to get the best finish that I can get. I'm on 2 tires, and I go into turn one. And while I even went shallow on speed, my car plowed. I mean, what it means is I turned the wheel and the front tires just were going straight. And they were calling the one car on the outside. So at that point, I knew that I was screwed. I was about to go backwards. I had all the 4-tire cars on my ass. They were going to pass me, or more than likely in the next corner. If they didn't, I mean, I know I had 2 fresh tire cars underneath of me anyway. I was 4 wide. And I'm like, I'm going straight to the back.
Because he's around you, he's going to get a better run. You're in the middle.
And so at that point, I know that I'm going to my crew chief told me there was 18 cars on the lead lap. And at that point, I said, all right, well, I'm probably live looking at a picture. I'm probably running 6th or 7th. I'm about to get passed by everybody behind me who's on fresh tires. I'm about to finish in the mid-teens. And I said, you're coming with me, buddy.
Really?
I did.
Wow, that's not what I thought.
It wasn't a mistake. No, it wasn't a mistake.
Okay.
I unleashed, I let the wheel go, and I said, he's coming with me. And so, it's been interesting because I hear people say, well, this for last year, this for that. It's not, I got wrecked at the Clash. I don't know that Ross sees it that way. I think he's still curious about what I thought about the Clash. I don't know why he would wonder what I thought about the Clash. But, I've said for a while, well, you got to do something to get these guys' attention, whatever, and I've said it, and I think that Ross doesn't like it when I speak his name in the media and when I had this microphone. But I told him, well, I have a microphone, and I'm going to call it like I see it. And until you get a microphone, you can then say whatever you want about me. But the fact is while I'm sitting here talking, I'm going to call things the way I see it, and sometimes I'm going to have to call myself out, which I'm the dumb who lost just as many spots as he did. But at the time, I said, well, I'm going to finish anyway, and I'm just going to make sure that he finishes right here with me. So it's difficult because, at times, people want me to react right away, but I don't want to involve any other cars. But here, I saw that we were the only people up top, so I said I'm going to send them in the fence and door them. Now, my dumb, got caught up in it because I got pinned. He was between me and the wall, and then so I got all screwed up, and then I lost a bunch of positions for my team, which was stupid as shit. But at the time, I'm like, I'm going to finish in the mid-teens anyway because my car's just plowing here. I'm about to get ate up by all these new tires. I just was like, if I'm going to, give this guy a hard time, this is going to be then. And then so he bounced off the wall. So my ideal situation was I was going to kind of just knock him into the fence a little bit, and I was going to keep going.
So you were going to finish 14th, 15th.
Yeah, probably somewhere in there. I mean, it's hard to assume anything, but I thought so. But he actually got the jump. He downshifted quicker, and then he brake checked me a few times. You saw that from the inboard down the backstretch. He hit the brakes a couple times, and I wasn't letting off at all. It didn't matter to me. So, and then after the brake checks, then I went into the next corner and tried. I'll be honest with you, the mother is hard to spin. I mean, when he knows it's coming, he is the hardest guy to wreck on the planet. But I just, I wanted to get back to racing, honestly, with him. And I think that that's a lot of the conversation that we had afterwards.
I was going to say, what was the conversation after race? Because it was...
Well, the conversation...
It was a long conversation.
He came up to me, and he says, I guess I deserved it. And I said, yeah, I think so. I'm not going to sit here on this podcast and ever lie to you guys and say, well, this is an accident when it's not. It wasn't an accident. I meant to put him in the fence, but I didn't mean to screw my team in the process, which maybe I should get the DBC. What an idiot for costing my own team, 10 spots more than likely. But at the time when you're seeing red, that's all that really matters, right? Is I saw an opportunity to not involve anyone else. I was about to go to the back, and I wanted to take him with me. So we talked, and I think that we are in a better place where I think we're willing to put the past behind us, and I think that we're going to judge each other from this point forward. And I think that's the fairest way to do it. As far as this season is concerned, he got me, and while it didn't cost him, it did cost me at the Clash. It cost both of us here, but that's my execution, right? So that's not his fault. So I just think that we need to just race each other with better respect from this point forward, and that's what I hope to get out of this. And he asked for a truce, I asked for a truce, and let's just see how it goes from here. Like there's no promises, but also if you can, I just said, Chastain, I really need to get some respect. Clearly, you don't respect me for whatever reason, right? And people have a right to not respect me. Maybe I've done them wrong in the past in something I'm not aware of. But tell me what it is, and maybe I can give you an explanation, or I can say, you know what, that's my fault, and I need to do better. I was in the conversation practically begging him to just take accountability for the past. I had to kind of push him into taking that accountability, but I think that I heard what I wanted to hear, and now I'm ready to move on. And hopefully he's ready to move on, and we're going to race each other hard but clean in the future. And now we're going to move on from this.
Well, I was kind of hoping that it was going to, all this Ross beef was going to end. Logitech was going to send us a third mic. We were going to set up right here. He would come in, and y'all would end it here on the show live.
It's interesting because, for the people that don't know from last year, like we went to breakfast after the Gateway incident. He invited me, hey, I'd like to meet you in person versus over the phone. Let's talk about this. And I got to really know his upbringing and why he races the way he races versus the way I race, because I find it very interesting. Like, we all get brought up very different ways, and we start in different series. And he's got a very interesting story that I think he should tell to the people of, I would love it. He needs to come on and tell the people his story, because I found it actually very interesting, and it made a lot of sense to me why he's as aggressive as he is. They always said, that you don't get your values out of thin air, right? You get your values from your parents and the people that you surround yourself around as a kid and when you're getting brought up. And it was very apparent to me that, he got pushed around a little bit, and the people that he was racing with, in the early series, that's what they did to get wins. They just knocked each other out of the way and spun each other, and that's what he saw, and that just kind of kept going. So he's got a great story, and hopefully he'll tell it one day. But
yeah, well, there you go, Ross. If you're listening, you want to come on. We need to fill this space right here. So Logitech will send us the third mic. You can sit right here. If you don't want to talk to Denny,
like, are you formally inviting him to be our first guest?
Yeah, I am.
Are you sure we're ready for guests?
Yeah. Well, we just need the third mic, but yeah, I think we're ready.
Well, we haven't had guests so far because we're trying to get our wheels under us here. But yeah, I would welcome Ross for a conversation for sure. And that'd be great.
A friend of yours, Ross Chastain, getting into the back of Brennan Poole, which spins him out, sends him up the track in turn 1, and then collects Kyle Larson, who's coming around the outside. Both these guys had. Yeah. Did you?
Yeah, I mean, I saw it. Obviously, you guys do a good job. You know, I don't have always time to completely rewatch the race all the way back, but I get the highlights and get the quotes and whatnot before I go on air here. And obviously, Brennan Poole was pissed. Kyle Larson was pissed. I don't know. I mean, you know, to me, it looked very similar to the incident with me and JJ at Richmond. I mean, it looked pretty much identical. The only difference really is kind of the habitual part of it, right? Is that, you know, Ross is involved again, and he's just not going to get the benefit of the doubt just simply because of, you know, the habitual wrecking, right? And so what's interesting is, like, he never, and I saw someone else talk about this, is that he never really gets the end of any of these contacts, right? It's always just someone else going spinning, and it ends their day, and he just goes about his own business and keeps going. There's only two fixes to this, right? I mean, honestly, you know, for me, you know, I chose to get back at him multiple times, and then finally, you know, one thing I'll say about Ross though is he doesn't mind you getting back at him. So why people in the field don't just do it, I don't understand, because, you know, after Pocono, you know, you know, he crashed into the wall there, and he says, well, I deserve that and probably a little more. And then after Phoenix, he comes up and says, well, I probably deserve that. Like, he's not oblivious to knowing that he's, you know, he's owed one, right? I don't know that much is going to change in his mind of, you know, you know, the juice is worth the squeeze probably from his perspective, because he's never really got caught up in any of these incidences. It's always been someone else's day that's gotten ruined, and no one has really done anything back. So if you don't do anything back, then, you know, and you haven't socked him in the nose, you know, you'll get $15K. Maybe it's worth that. I probably would have paid $15K and not gotten 25, you know, points and $50,000. That probably was a better scenario.
Good for you in that you won. We had the fight on pit road, but Chastain throws his right hook, knocks Noah in the face, and then 5 minutes later comes to victory lane to congratulate you.
You know, hats off to him. He's finding a warm place in my heart, Chastain is. He really is. So I just feel like, yeah, I mean, since Phoenix, which is what's supposed to happen, is you get into it, you talk it out, you're very rational, which we were. We said, listen, we're going to judge each other from this point forward. And there were specific moments in that race where Chastain either could have continued to run side by side with me or let me go. And he let me go multiple times. And I told him when he came up, so, you know, to let people know what he said, he just said to me, he was like, awesome drive, man. I never thought you were going to get back to him. Congrats. I said to him, hey, I recognize what you did early in the race. You'll get that back.
Yep.
And so that's the kind of the respect that you want to have between drivers, is that, you know, I wanted him to know that, hey, I recognized you cut me a couple breaks this race. So I want you to know it is in my piggy bank that, you know, when the roles are reversed and you're faster, I probably need to let him go a couple times as well. So that's how I think it's supposed to be done. And, you know, thank you for him for coming up. He was that was manly up. And now again, I'm not sticking up for him. I'm not, for the record. Kyle did hedge down the racetrack a little bit.
anticipating that Chastain was probably going to run him up the racetrack.
So he needed room. Yes, he wanted to have extra room to the wall. Correct. So either way, I think that they were going to make significant contact through as much throttle as they were carrying into the corner. But man, yeah, Chastain was probably more ahead of him than he had planned on being, and so Kyle, got squished into the wall, and then Chastain wrecked himself, and so and then he saw Kyle just kind of keep the gas down. I wish he should have just kept going. I wish he would just kind of push them all
down the backstretch.
No, right into the pit lane. just dump him off at pit lane and then turn right and go back on the racetrack. But at that point, he's trying not to damage his car any more than it probably already is. But yeah, certainly the 5 teams frustrated. Cliff Daniels, he's a late race commentator. He said, Chevrolet, this is number 3. Third time Chastain's done this to us. He's rattling off these races that Chastain's taken Kyle out. I'm not arguing with it. I mean, Chastain's got he's got a piece of everyone here lately. It's amazing because you're like thinking, can he go 1 week? Is there any week where you can go without rubbing somebody the wrong way? Listen, whose fault is it? It's definitely Chastain's fault for sure. He even said that, hey, I wrecked myself here. But it's interesting because people talk about all the time, well, he never gets the bad end of his stuff. He did this week, right? That part of it caught up. But I think it goes unspoken, or it gets overlooked that he should be winning a lot more than he is. He's only won 2 races, and one of them was on the road course, and there was contact in that one. But you would think he'd be winning as fast as he is, and he's up front every week, as stellar as his pit crew is. He should be winning more. Definitely should be winning more.
Down to execution, right?
It does. It does. But what I'm saying to you is that perhaps if he was on the better side of some of the drivers, he would get a break here and there. And his races would go a little less confrontational because no one's cutting him a break. So there's always contact with him because no one's willing to just say, okay, come on by.
Yeah.
You've cut me a break, so come on by. So there's not as much give and take probably with him. The guys are going to race him more aggressively, which in turn, he races aggressive, so that equals the contact. I sent him a note because he gave me he came in my victory lane at Kansas.
Yeah.
And I sent him a message. I said, hey, I would have came see you in your victory lane, but I'm trying to get the hell out of Nashville, and the airport route they shut off after an hour. So I'm like, congrats. But because Bob Pockris puts me on the spot. And he's like, so he congratulated you on victory lane. Are you going to go congratulate him?
Yeah.
And I'm like, Bob, I'm trying to get out of here.
Traffic's bad.
Traffic
Bob,
is
they're
bad.
holding the tunnel in 15 minutes, Bob. I need you to wrap it up.
Yeah, exactly. So I did send him a nice text.
What Ross did, is that, in your mind, fair racing?
Yeah, I think he's racing for a win. I think it is fair. It's unfortunate because it could play a role in the 5 catching the 12, because inevitably, if you are the leader and you're holding up traffic,
right,
everyone's going to come to you. And what it then allows is that the 12 is going to burn up his stuff trying to get around the 1, and then the 5 will creep his way in the back into the picture and then could put a move on him if his stuff is cooler because he's been in open track while he's been catching them. But you got to think of this from Chastain's perspective. He's had a rough, an exception of one race, up until this point in Nashville. It just is, he's not been the Ross that we've come to know, right? And then so he finds himself up front because of, they were fast on practice, they qualified well, and they drove to the front. And he's like, well, I could win the finale. This is a big deal.
Right. You're not going to pull over.
No way he's pulling over, which is why he aero blocked as hard as he did. And so it won him the race. So how can you possibly say that move was wrong? You can't. It's just, if the final four are going to continue to be out there with other cars, you got to deal with this. And this is part of it. That's why you don't have 4 cars out there racing at once. The other cars play a factor in sometimes who wins.